A casual joke turns into a fatal underestimation. A woman with quiet eyes stands among Marines who think they know war. One call sign, Sticky 6. Awakens a legend buried in classified files and blood-soaked deserts. And when lives hang in the balance, silence becomes the deadliest weapon of all. Before we begin the full story, pause for just a moment. Where are you watching from today? And if stories of silent heroes, unseen sacrifices, and earned respect matter to you, please subscribe. Now let's begin. The joke was barely finished when the air shifted. It happened in a hardened operations compound under a bleached Middle Eastern sky, where concrete walls still remembered explosions and the wind carried the smell of diesel, sand, and old smoke. A Marine captain, decorated, confident, admired, leaned back with a grin that had won him rooms before. His laughter was light, careless, born of comfort. "So what's your call sign?" he asked the woman casually, as if asking her favorite song. A few Marines chuckled. Someone smirked. Someone else shook their head, amused. The woman didn't smile. She stood with her hands folded loosely in front of her, posture straight but not rigid, eyes steady but distant. Her hair was pulled back in a practical tie, faded at the edges. Her uniform bore no rank that demanded attention, no ribbons arranged to impress. She looked ordinary. That was the mistake. Because when she finally answered, quietly without pride or drama, the world tilted. Sticky 6. The name fell into the space between them like a dropped round. No one laughed this time. Somewhere deep in the compound, a radio crackled. A helicopter thumped the air far off, and the captain's grin froze, slowly dissolving into something else, recognition edged with disbelief. Because Sticky 6 wasn't a call sign you joked about. It was a ghost, and ghosts were earned. Her name was Elena Ward, though few here knew it, and fewer still would remember it later. She had been invited into the compound as part of a joint intelligence review, an analyst, they'd been told. A civilian contractor with a military background. Necessary but peripheral. She felt the heat through the soles of her boots, the way the ground seemed to hum with stored violence. She noticed things others didn't. The slightly off rhythm of the guard rotations, the faint metallic smell near the eastern wall that hinted at disturbed soil, the way one Marine's hand kept drifting unconsciously toward his rifle. Elena had learned long ago that silence was safer than correction. Her face carried the marks of time more than age. A faint scar traced her jawline, pale against sun-worn skin. Her eyes, gray steady, held the weight of too many horizons watched through scopes, too many decisions measured in heartbeats. She had been disrespected before. In briefing rooms where her presence was questioned. In airports where her gait drew stares. In quiet moments when someone realized too late who she was. But she had survived worse than jokes. Elena Ward had not planned to become Sticky 6. She had enlisted young. Driven by a stubborn sense of duty she couldn't quite name. She had trained while others slept, bled while others quit. The first time she lay behind a rifle for 14 hours straight, her muscles screamed and her teeth chattered, but she did not move. She learned patience the hard way, through cold nights, blistering days, and the constant awareness that a single mistake could end lives she would never meet. Her call sign came from a mission gone wrong in the mountains, rain-soaked rock, slick with mud and blood. She had held her position long after command thought her compromised, fingers numb, body aching, refusing extraction. She stayed. She waited. She finished the mission. She sticks, someone had said over the radio, awe-threading their voice. Sticky, another replied. The 6 came later, lead sniper. Final authority, the last voice before a trigger pull. She lost people. Friends whose boots she still remembered by the scuff marks. A spotter whose laugh echoed in her dreams long after the burial. She carried their weight quietly, folding grief into discipline, memory into resolve. By the time she left active duty, her name had vanished from public record, sealed behind classifications and redactions. She didn't miss the recognition. She missed the purpose. The captain cleared his throat, trying to recover. "That's interesting," he said, tone lighter than his eyes. "Didn't realize we had celebrities in the room." More laughter, uncertain this time. Elena met his gaze briefly, then looked away. She had learned that correcting pride rarely ended well. The briefing continued. Maps spread across tables. Timelines were discussed. The Marines spoke with confidence, outlining an upcoming extraction mission near hostile territory. Enemy movement, they said, was minimal. The window was tight but manageable. Elena listened, and felt the unease settle in her chest like a slow, familiar burn. She noticed what they missed. The asymmetry in the data, the pattern gaps that suggested deliberate concealment. The way satellite feeds lagged just enough to be dangerous. The absence of civilian noise where there should have been life. She spoke once. Calmly, softly. There's something wrong with your Eastern approach. The room stilled for half a second, then moved on. We've run the numbers, the captain replied. Intel's solid. Alina nodded. Silence returned to her like an old friend. Around her, Marines shifted, some curious, some dismissive. No one wanted to believe the quiet woman saw something they didn't. Outside, the sun climbed higher. Inside, time began to run out. Hours later, alarms shattered the illusion of control. A forward unit had triggered a trap, IEDs chained with sniper cover, positioned exactly where Alina had warned them not to go. Communications faltered. A medevac request crackled through static, urgency bleeding into every syllable. The compound erupted into motion. The captain barked orders, confidence strained now, eyes darting to maps that no longer made sense. Marines moved fast, but tension clung to them like dust. Someone cursed under their breath. Someone else whispered a prayer. Alina stood at the edge of the chaos, watching, calculating. She felt the old focus slide into place, cold and clear. Her hands twitched slightly, muscle memory awakening. She caught a glimpse of the eastern feed and saw it, the glint, the angle, the impossible patience of an enemy sniper nest. They were being watched. She stepped forward. Not loud, not dramatic. You're pinned, she said. From above, 2 shooters, winds shifting south. The captain turned sharply. And you know this how? Alina met his eyes again. This time there was no apology in her gaze. Because I would be. A beat of silence. Then another Marine, a gunnery sergeant with silver in his beard, looked at her more closely. At the scar. At the stillness. Captain, he said slowly, I've heard that call sign. Everything changed. Orders shifted without argument. Alina was given a feed, then a rifle, old, familiar weight settling into her hands like truth. She moved with quiet efficiency, directing adjustments, calling angles, predicting movements seconds before they happened. Shots rang out in the distance. Enemy positions fell silent, one by one. Pinned Marines advanced. Wounded were extracted. A disaster unraveled itself into survival. No one cheered. They watched, because they were witnessing something rare. Mastery without ego, violence without cruelty, leadership without noise. When it was over, the compound stood in a kind of stunned reverence. Dust hung in the air. The captain approached Alina slowly, helmet under his arm. I didn't know, he said. She nodded once. You didn't need to, she replied. Later, someone would repeat her words like scripture. Another Marine murmured, almost to himself. She never raised her voice, and she saved them all. Respect isn't demanded. Alina had once thought, watching the horizon. It's revealed. And as the wounded were carried past her alive, breathing, she felt the familiar ache of memory and purpose. Some battles, she believed, are won long before the first shot is fired. The captain would remember one line forever, spoken quietly as she handed the rifle back. Silence isn't weakness, she said. It's control. That evening, as the sun bled red into the desert, the Marines stood differently around her. Not closer, not louder, just straighter. Someone offered her water with both hands. Another nodded in passing, respect unspoken but heavy. The captain removed his cap when he addressed her, a small gesture that carried weight. No medals were given, no announcements made. But when Alina walked away from the compound, every Marine she passed stood still, silent, watching the legend fade back into anonymity. There are heroes who shout their victories, and heroes who never speak of them again. Sticky 6 was the latter. Her power was never in being seen, but in being ready, in carrying unseen battles so others could live to forget them. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you that respect is often owed long before it's recognized, tell us where you're watching from. Share your thoughts below. And subscribe for more stories that honor the silent strength of those who never asked to be remembered, but deserve to be. Because somewhere, right now, another quiet hero is standing in the background, waiting.